I wanted to thank Indran and Murthanayagam for publishing several of my poems in Beltway Poetry Quarterly, a wonderful literary magazine, online literary magazine that he edits. And also I wanted to mention that Indran has recently published The Migrant States with Hanging Loose Press, a wonderful press that's been in existence since the 1960s or maybe even earlier. I'm not sure the founding date, but Mark Pollock, who has been a long-time co-editor there, is one of my good friends from the 1960s. And the poem that I'm going to read is included in an unpublished manuscript of mine titled Three Ravens Watch. Fertility doctor. The doctor was in his office sitting behind his desk. She had asked her neighbor to babysit so that she could rush in after she and her husband Reginald had sex. It wasn't as bad as she thought it might be, sex on demand, so she could race to the doctor's and bare herself for a scraping from which the doctor could make a slide of Reginald's living sperm. She wondered if it were possible to make love anywhere on command, the road, the beach, time and location being inessential to the physical act. To duck into a closet, an alleyway, a side room to mate. This was her duty, her only ambition now that she was over 40. She had cleared away all her other impulses, just as the housefrau cleans her house. She had swept out all of her other wants. One day she woke up with the feeling that she was pregnant, the same bloated sensation that she felt before her first child was born. It was particularly difficult that day to want to race into the Kaiser Permanente office to meet Dr. Kreska, the gynecology specialist assigned to her. Here he was, making dire predictions of possible deformation. These sperms are unusual, he opined as he leaned over the slide. They can't swim well. You saw how they travel in circles. We need sperm that swims straight. They have to get in and penetrate the tough crust. I don't think they'll ever make it. He was calling her again from the microscope so that she might further examine the slide. She would always resemble him there in his long white doctor's garb, his thick Germanic accent, inviting her for a view. Look here, these sperm are deformed. They are swimming around instead of forward, he said in what sounded like a gleeful voice, even more triumphant than the first time. They had told her that her chances of becoming pregnant were so remote that they weren't worth talking about. She wasn't interested in responding to him. She couldn't make sense of the slide with squiggles squirming around in a viscous gel. She wasn't compelled to sit in a bare linoleum office. The waiting room was always so much more inviting, with each patient hiding a story, sometimes letting out brief tidbits. To her, the sperm seed seemed odd, unreliable subjects for study with this particular conclusion, especially given the fact that she had already become pregnant and she had already birthed a child, and especially after her husband had fathered a child in a previous marriage. But they had moved to a new town and consulted with a new fertility specialist after a year of trying, and here she was again, beside a doctor waving microscopic results like a wand. The doctor motioned for Reginald to enter the room and close the door. Your sperm count is still depressed, he said in a flat tone as he stared at the pink charts. But my wife thinks she's pregnant, said Reginald, a confused edge to his voice. Must be a false pregnancy, the doctor retorted without hesitation. We see that all the time. Women who want children enough just reach for them in their subconscious, and they blow themselves up like pufferfish, without having any idea what they are doing. In her mind, the microscope protruded from a natural field, the leaves, the inchworms on the thistle bark. She hunched over in the garden, planting seeds. She knew. Thank you.